Rahubat Moisar, and welcome to another live reading. Our scroll for today will be The Master's Secret, series number 14, entitled Salvation. In our Lahaj, that would be Tankaz. Tankaz. All right. So before we get started, let's just take a moment to acknowledge ourselves empowered. We're going to acknowledge our master teacher who brings us together and get right into our reading. So let's start with our first confirmation, which is you, and start with your breath. All right. So you're going to stand up and you're going to just take a deep breath, which is going to turn into a smile breath. All right. The beauty of smile means complete union. All right. And you want to start in being complete union with yourself. All right. With your many dimensions, and start with the many dimensions of your lungs. Most of us breathe very shallow or mid breath. All right. So as Baabaa explained, the percentage of people who breathe properly, especially in the West, is an elite class, meaning a very small class. So just by breathing properly, you place yourself in the elite class. How do we breathe properly? We utilize our nature or our design, our craft, all right, as nature intended. And now you're in the design of natural nature, Hanadaru, all right? So you have many parts of your lungs. And you start by acknowledging your diaphragm. It's a large muscle, all right, that separates your rib cage from down here, all right, which would be your stomach area, all right? And then when you take a deep breath, the diaphragm actually puts a slight pressure on your inner organs. So you actually get a nice stimulation of those organs and glands. All right. And then it will act like a vacuum, automatically pulling air into the mid lungs. So you start with the deep breath, the air automatically gets pulled into the mid lungs. And if you keep inhaling, your stomach starts to go in because the air is moving upward towards the top of your lungs. And you hold the breath for a moment, and then you exhale. And you have just completed a smile breath. All right. So it's a good idea to do a smile breath throughout the day so you get into a habit of breathing properly. All right. So even when you're not taking a full expansion of your lungs, you'll realize even if you're taking a moderate expansion to just breathe normally, you'll be in a habit of utilizing or using your entire lungs. All right. And then you'll notice that your consciousness, all right, has been more tapped in. It'll be automatic, all right, from your emotional awareness, your physical awareness, your mental awareness, more is accessible, all right through your breath, all right. And then you'll start to make the connection, what's going on physical or physiological. You'll see all the connections, and then you'll realize it's all one and the same, just different dimensions, all right, or different mediums of the same energy, just in different densities, all right? So your breath itself is a gateway, all right? So when you're doing a deep breath, when you need to support love, healing, and wisdom and guidance, you're going to tap into your breath. And you're going to imagine our symbol, the poet's symbol. And you're going to say, After Paa Taraq la Hereafter Yaanun, After Baabaa Yaanun, which means open the way to the soul of Yaanun. Rawuk is the soul, the breath of life, all right, that very spark. Open the door towards him, who is interchangeable with him, all right? So you remember who you are, all right, despite what you had to become throughout many cycles, all right? And your power is in the who, which is the creative force, which we all grew from, all right? So you're tapping into that very wisdom. And we have our master teacher. Open the door towards him, living and breathing embodiment. So as you picture power, you can also picture our master teacher, all right? Who's flesh and blood like you, living and breathing like you, from us, sent back to us for the purpose of renewing our story. So Baabaa represents all that we can be, all right? And he takes us to Paut, the all, as you remember yourself, all right, as all, right? And you start with your breath. And that's your first confirmation with you. And you realize that everything else is expanding from your very center. So from your center, you go back from your spark to that initial spark, all right? Now you just tapped into 76 trillion years of information, all right? And beyond. And now let's do a breath together. And you're going to say, Abdul Kalau Tapolora, Twufa Kor Bisamus Papaut. Begin all prayers and thinking by using the all expanding. So now you see that your breath itself is a thing of all expanding. All right. As you know now, Smai means complete union. All right. And as you breathe in, that wisdom, support, love, I should for yourself. You breathe out that same wisdom, love, support, and healing for your fellow brothers and sisters. All right. As you remember, Paut, you remember Paut, the all in all. All right. And you accept all, the all, as it is. Why? Because you're in your proper place and time. All right. And that's the lessons of our Shook. All right. So we're going to acknowledge our master teacher. All right. Who shares many of these lessons with us. As Bobby, you see, taps his craft into Paa Taraq. All right. You see Bobby's coordinates tapping in as the transmitter. All right. To Paa Taraq, the cosmos. And we say Baror, 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 Nabab Nadar Mukdar. Naut Mukdar Badid Patah. Naut Muklas Badid Yaanun. Holy, holy, holy. Master Overseer Almighty. Holy, 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 as in the holy seed, the whole picture, all existing gases, all right, from that non-etheric existence and beyond. Master Overseer Almighty, the might of all right, nothing missing. Nahut Mugdad Beded Patah, Nahut Muklas Beded Yaanun, no God except Patah, no Savior except Yaanun, no God except Patah, because as you breathe and you spark and you respond, Patah, as we are sparked by Patah, and we become open, knowing that our hearts itself is a seat of opening. We become a mukta. We become one who is open, all right? And it's our responsibility to respond, all right, or to regrow, all right? No Savior except Yaanun, because you cannot lie to yourself. I shook, and I affirm that I am in the divine love of the all expanding, and all divine love is in me. Paa Taraq. Anuki Jawef Pa Ashok M Pa Pahut. Wu Kalal Ashok Kawun Jawef Niya. Anuki Kasamum M Pa Pahut. Wu Pa Pahut Kawun Kasamum En Niya. Anuki Wahu Amen Pa Pahut. Wu Pa Pahut Kawun Wahu Amen Niya. Nakok Kadod Naja Amen Kasam En Pa Pahut. Wu Chabub Amen Mushkas Nakok Kador Kawan Kalau Pafet Nakok ayo jawef papahut. Ame wase ame ayani kawun lake bakoy jawef papahut. Anuki abed biye nafashni. Papahut kawun anuki. Papahut kador nakuk kador. Papahut amol nakuk amol. The all is I am, and they are me, and I am them. The very forces of natural nature, Panadaru. This is for them from us. Lahehu manehnu antum ate karerhu antum ate karerkum antum ate karenu antum ate jawefniya antum ate niyahu anukihu ya ye ashukreye asmu jayehnu ya ye nataru aufuknu nahun ater mukraruku ya ye nataru aufuknu 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 ya ye natarunu anun atun atun amun tawakum nadarunum for not forgetting us. Tawakum for incarnating our master teacher, flesh and blood like us, for this day and time, for the purpose of renewing our story, for the purpose of our healing as one collective people. I should. And Tawakum for the information itself that was sent down for us, Nuwapian Sabians. And this is the scroll that we will be reading today. The Master Secret, series number 4, entitled Tanqaz, meaning salvation. And we acknowledge that this book is the truth and the way. Anin misfa kawun, pasawabu Paa Taraq, ze kawuna nazulala he amtkun. Mane mospatu masaa, ama hade amudamau. Mane musafuku munataru arjulaye nafashuku alfukshane kawunku pasawabu Paa Taraq pahadeamu padama nahun tamuantkum lahe panenda malushtafe nahun tamuantkum lahe tem nasoinu nahun tamuantkum Lahe ashkuma, anskuma te muslafunu. Nahun ate mukraruku. Nahun salub nasakuma. Nahun salub nasakuma. Ansanun kahena taru. Ansanun muslafunu. Nahun ate muspatu. Anun Atun Atun Amun. We are Sabians. Tawakum Natarun. Wumuntaru. Tawatak Muntar Baabaa Yaanun. In the personage of His Excellency, Dr. Malachi York Okran Zeddy. And Tawakum to us, Moisar, as we are doing our very best to transform into the very best versions of ourselves in our one collective body. And Tawakum to our Muslafu ancestors for supporting us thus far, because we're still here. I shook. And this is our scroll that we will be reading today. All right. So those of us who are studying the Lahaj, take a moment, and then you see that the Lahaj is in our circle, all right, which signifies something saying without beginning or without ending, all right. And then you see the counterpart, all right, the mirror image of our etheric and physical counterpart, all right. The Master Secrets is a great series for helping to round ourselves out, all right. And we're doing work on both sides, in our physical, all right, and our spiritual resurrection, all right. So take time to just study the scroll cover and see what it says to you. And a little bit about the author. Baabaa Yaanun, the master teacher, known to us as His Excellency Malachi Z. York Okran. Kobina means born Tuesday, June 26, 1945 AD, in Ghana, West Africa. All right. And those are Baba's coordinates. As you see, Baba taps in. One of his many hats is transmitter. All right. Transmit meaning to deliver a message, much like your neurotransmitters, as that's what happens between yourselves. All right. So Baba, another one of his hats is Pata. His job is to spark you, and your job is to respond. And that is our ritual, our African ritual of call and response. And you see, Baba has brought to us the scroll of eyes, all right, as we open our mind's eye, all right, our mipta, and then you hear the root of pata. So let's get right into our reading. And everyone, welcome, and feel free to unmute and participate as you feel moved to, if something sparks you. All right, so let's get started in our reading. Oh, Rahubat Zamaltat Herseed, I see you. And Zamaltat Linky. And
I just wanted to say, Ryan Bain, Monsieur, thank you again for making time for this reading today. Tawata.
And Tawatat to you for showing up. All right. And let's all work on ourselves together. Let's get right into our reading. The Master Secret, Tanqaz. All right. Who would like to correct my pronunciation of Tanqaz? All right. Who's better, more proficient at the language than I am? Who would like to pronounce that word? All right. Since it's the name of our scroll.
Go. Tough. Ten
Tan-
tough. 10
Tanqaz.
tough. Mm-hmm.
Tanqaz. All right. All right. Let's get into
10
our
tough.
reading.
The VH is pronounced the.
Duh. Like duh. Duh.
Yeah.
Tanqaz.
Right.
Okay.
Sawa.
Tankad. Tahat. All right.
Nitaka kuyaku.
Yeah. So maybe we all help each other. I appreciate you helping me with that. Tankad. All right. So you hear that's the sound. ZH. All right. The master secret. Tankad. Salvation. One. Nakuk atoy tawat hat lahir aye salafu. Lahir rasul ya nanan. Pa nabab pa muklas. Wu munzar or muntar. Wu muntar shalil panen. Zamut wu wakut. Pa musfe bi sahur. Kayasat. An huwa yake. Wahuba nunya pa sawab. Anun atir pa newapt. Bi wahaban wahab nunya wunawap. Jamed sahe kayas anun nunya tarak. Shalil anak wu haya an huwa hayas. Nazula lahe nunya mane pa kawak marzak. Bashar wu damam jawef katat un mane marzak. Jawef malil laye panen kawak tahe anunun tan kath. All right. And this is what it says. I give thanks to my ancestors for sending Yanun, the one who is the master, the one who is the savior and warner of this day and time, the one who heals by way of right reasoning. He who gives us the truth. We are the replacement by way of giving us wunuwa, solid or sound, correct, as in right, reason, as in logic, our own way of life and living. He has come down towards us from the planet Rizq, flesh and blood, inside a body from Rizq, in Ilyun to this planet Earth of our own salvation. To a namazor, prayer for my own people, the replacements of all who failed. All right. One of our definitions, although Bible says that the true meaning of Nuwapu is going to be remain hidden and shared with only who Bible decides. However, you see there's many dimensions. And one of one of the meanings for Nuwap means to replace. All right. So notice you don't just take away things from people, you replace it. You take away the delusions and you replace it with facts. All right. 3. As each of their Safahat's books taught that if they failed, a new people will be raised to Nuwap, replace those who live by faith and beliefs of the religions of the Adamite race and their books, doctrines, teachings of their own history. All right. 4. Yet now that I have come with Wunuwap, and they become Pa Munwapu, the ones who replace the others, it was written and it is. 5. And O Mukshashu, gossiping ones of the past before the year 2000 AD, the expiration of all the biblical and Quranic teachings, as well as the end of the 6,000 years of the Adamite Tardad domination, and ruled by their own legends, fictions, and false beliefs. All right. I just recently read a quote, all right, an African quote, all right. Some African person wrote that quote, and I'm sure we could all relate to it. And then it said something along the lines of, I'm paraphrasing what it said. It said that the Europeans came with the Bible, all right, and we had the land. And they said, close your eyes and let us pray. So we closed our eyes, and when we opened our eyes, we had the Bible and they had the land. All right. And that's what and I was like, well, the fictions have been empowering everybody else. Rahubat Zamaltat Linky.
Rahubat Zamaltat. I think that was Bishop Desmond Tutu. I have heard him saying that quote before.
Oh,
Yeah.
let me write his name down. I appreciate that. Bishop Desmond Dudu. Oh, I appreciate that. Where is he from? Zamaltat. Do you know? I can
Yeah,
look him up.
he's South African.
South
He's
African.
South African.
Oh,
Yeah.
wonderful. Yeah. So it's time for us to replace that illogical thinking that empowered everybody else to oppress us. All right. And Africans, we're ready worldwide. Our genetics are waking up from their slumber. It's such a great time for us. Let's continue. 6. You who still follow them and make the claim to be counted among the knowing, know this. You have been deceived by the Murbanu whites, Caucasus Caucasians, and Arabu red Arabs and their religious beliefs. 7. Do not be arrogant and speak, preach, teach much about that which you are not knowledgeable. 8. You who have Hatuma decided to live a lie. Ahtum decide to now live the Sawab truth. All right. In one shape or form, I would say we all lived a lie to some shape or form. All right. But now that we know the truth, it's time for us to transform and live according to the truth now and not a lie. 9. You are 9. Asmuni. You are of the original race of people. Act as if you have some sense. 10. The Mujwawu Jews, Muksasu Christians, and Muslamu Muslims do not grasp the Talaq essence of that which, or those who were planned on this planet long before their Adam and Eve, by whichever name. All right. So as we read in other scrolls, we see many beings popped up. All right, because there was many different involvements on this planet. All right. So there were many different Adam and Eves, many gravitations. All right. But we're not talking about the gravitations. We're going back to the original. All right. The original race that grew with the natural cycles of time. All right. Which puts them in the natural rhythm of all. All right. That others cannot grasp. So if you are African, you need to act as if you have some sense. All right. 11. Neither in turn does those who grafted and made them grasp the dalak essence of that which of those who were grown, Sayem divine in fatarul fatar natural nature. All right. When you graft something, something will always be off. All right. And that's why this is a genetic doctrine. All right. And may it take you as far back or as far as your genetics can go. All right. Some people are more genetically inclined to grasp certain things because it's in their very essence and nature to do so. All right. We just have to remember. And some beings are not genetically coded to grasp the natural movements. All right. And the natural rhythms and the common sense, which is no longer common in their genetic code. All right. 12. Mankind can never grasp the natural nature of the original Afafre Kaahu Zazaz African man. 13. The unnatural natured human beast is just that, a heathen and a Dabat beast. 14. Nor does this human beast understand our true divine fatah natural nature thoroughly. Hear that word. He said thoroughly. All right. So people get bits and pieces. All right. And that's what I love about these scrolls, because as we're getting, all right, our common sensibilities, and we're thoroughly grasping them, that lets you know that there's a thorough healing, all right? Because many of us who grew from the natural nature have been infected by unnatural nature. And both things are side by side, sometimes in the same person. So as you thoroughly grasp things, you're explaining those defects away, all right? That's why you're healing the genetics, all right? Do you know your hormones shift as you think differently? For example, you encode different things in your very muscles, all right? 15, only what they, all right, so let's go back to 14. Nor does this human beast understand our true divine fatah natural nature thoroughly. Only what they bred of us as hybrids and neutrinoids, who as mulattoes chose to join onto the Tananu, the Draconoids, all right, the Draconoids or the Draconians. We, Paa Taraq, the overseers, have designated a genetic system, a scientific system of natural rules of nature, and they are on the outside of the natural rule. All right. So now I'm hearing again about the neutrinoids and the hybrids. And if we're honest about ourselves, a lot of us are somewhere in that neutrinoid category, right? But this is decision time. That's why we have a scroll called decision, all right? Because every decision is sealing of fate, all right? So you notice that there's a propensity for many hybrids and neutrinoids, mixed people, to want to join in to the unnatural nature, all right? So it's not the unnatural nature that's going to save us. It's going back to our natural nature that'll save us, all right? And that's the decision. And that's a tough decision. That's why we, you know, if you little less mixed, they say the wise amongst them mixing with the foolish amongst us, because we're left picking up the pieces today. And this is what we're working through. All right. That's why certain things are a little easier, certain things are a little harder. All right. That goes back to the unnatural nature, which we've all picked up little aspects of it. All right. If we're honest with ourselves. All right. Because I know I have. And it's a work. It's what I'm working towards, of healing myself. All right. So 15, only what they bred of us hybrids as hybrids and neutrinoids, who as mulatto chose to join unto the Tananu or the Draconian, the Draconans, Dragonans, or the Jagonoids. We, Paa Taraq, the overseers, have designated a genetic system, a scientific system of natural rules of nature, and they are on the outside of the natural rule. 17, a set of genetic principles to each creature of these species and entities to which all must submit. Of your 24,000 chromosomes in your genomes, you always are using 24%, and the other 76% is jumping DNA and satellite DNA, and they are interfacing with the morphic field. All right. I had a what do you call it? An anatomy book. All right. And it was showing that actually most of our, like, we have, what is it called, bacteria and everything that puts our bodies together, DNA. And they were showing that actually most of your body is actually composed of outside bacteria and germs, all right, from the environment. All right. And that becomes part of your DNA. So that's what I'm picturing from, that article I was reading. All right. So the 76, so you are always using 24%. The other 76% is jumping DNA and satellite DNA and are interfacing with the morphic field. All right. So when you hear morphic, you hear something that can change, subject to change. All right. So most of it can be subject to morph into what you're interfacing. All right. So I think those are very interesting words. You can write down satellite DNA, because that's going to be fun to look up on your own time, and jumping DNA. All right. And then see how that works. So, in fact, are actively responding to alterations in your state of consciousness. All right. Your morphic field. All right. So 76% of the DNA is actively responding to alterations in your state of consciousness. Your satellite DNA's ability to expand the number of repeating sequences means an increase in the affirmation to your information's earning capacity of DNA. All right. Now, remember in the scroll that we recently read, I forgot which one it was, 24 Elder Scroll. Remember in that scroll, it said that Nagaru are the only ones on this planet, how everyone has 24,000 genomes. But the Nagaru is the only one who has the potential to activate all 24,000. All right. And that makes a lot of sense. For something as simple as when you go out, I'll give an example of something very simple. What the Nagaru does automatic without even thinking. When you go out in the sun, it's not something you have to think about. Your melanin will automatically respond to produce more, all right? And you'll just get darker the more radiation you get, all right? So that's an example of a morphic field, all right? Something as simple as that. So you notice that our DNA is very responsive, all right? That's why lasers, lights, sound, all right, affects us more. All right. Because some other groups, for example, they have a hard time responding to the stimuli. All right. So they may have a melanocyte, but they don't know why their melanocyte doesn't respond to the radiation, where yours easily does. So there's plenty of genetics like that in the African's body that automatically can activate, all right, and respond. So our potential to activate all of it is still there, according to what Baba shared with us in the 24 Elder Scroll. All right. So your satellite's DNA ability to expand the number of repeating sequences means an increase in the affirmation to your information earning capacity of DNA. All right. And I like even the words that Baba chose as well. Information earning capacity of DNA. So the fact that, for example, another example is, I'm just using the melanin, but there's so many other aspects that you can use, but melanin is something that we could all just relate to very easily. So for example, when you get active radiation, your body actually stores it like a capacitor, all right, an energy capacitor. That's why when you get out of the radiation, you don't just lose your color. You hold on to that because your earning capacity is very high. And actually, the higher your earning capacity, the slower you actually lose it, all right? So you may notice, if you're in very, very excellent health, you may notice that you can be out of the sun for a long time before you go very light. Whereas somebody else, they earn it not as effectively, and then they also don't store it as well either. So they don't retain that information as well as your body does. All right. So your earning capacity is higher. Your information earning capacity is higher than other races. All right. And there's other aspects, all right, that does that as well. All right. So as a fractional antenna, DNA interacts with the etheric of space, time, and vacuum. Terms are synonymous in this context with your zero time point or your 0 point nashat energy, which interacts with your consciousness. All right. So now you know that DNA itself is an antenna. All right. Something as simple as your melanin being an antenna, because it picks up a frequency, all right, and then it responds back. All right. So it had to respond to something. So it lets you know that something was inputted, and then you can see the response as an output. All right. And Baabaa had drawn a picture, which is a very simple picture. It was a stick figure. All right. I have seen that picture of the other places, more detailed. But this is the picture Baabaa drew. All right. So am I clear or am I pixelated?
It's a bit pixelated.
That's too bad. That's why I don't wear prints. I think it's this little print. All right. So, well, it's pretty much a stick figure man. All right. And then it has branches on the hands and feet. All right. So it shows that it's branching out into the energy what's surrounded. All right. So it can pull on that energy and it can actually output on that energy too. All right. Like a satellite. All right. And then it also reminds me of that picture, reminds me of like sound. So for example, let me see. Maybe if I cover up, I'm gonna cover up this print. I'm gonna hold this like that. Because I feel like when I wear prints, it just pixelates the camera. All right. So maybe it'll stop pixelating now. All right. So now it reminds me of like sound. You have audible sound. All right. Which is between 20 hertz and 20,000 kilohertz, if I'm not mistaken. And that's the audible sound. All right. If it drops below, for most people's hearing, what your physical ear can pick up, it doesn't pick up outside that range for most people's ear, most human beings. So when you go to 19 hertz, for example, that's just below of human hearing. All right. So the same thing can be for also human DNA. What the machines can pick up, it becomes less sensitive to be able to pick up. So in reality, people take up a lot more space than what they physically take up, what you can see. Just like sound takes up a lot more space than what you can physically hear. All right. So now you know your DNA branches into the etheric world. Same way that sound does. All right. So as a fractional antenna, DNA interacts with the etheric of space, time, and vacuum terms, which are synonymous in this context with your 0 time point of 0 points, nashat energy, which interacts with your consciousness. All right. Consciousness in general. All right. You can have consciousness between 20 hertz and 20,000 kilohertz. Consciousness doesn't go away just because it dropped to 19 hertz. Because there was an example of this building. It was some type of motor, something that, you know, that wasn't meant to give off any type of sound, but it was just a motor of some construction on some building. All right. And in that construction, let me see, I wrote it down here. All right. The construction of that building. It was in 1957. All right. And it was infrasonic waves. All right. That was making people very sick. It was called nauseating vibrations. And it was not something they could hear, but it was something they thought that there was some type of chemical. So they were looking around for whatever chemical was making everybody nauseous. All right. And then they found out that it wasn't actually a chemical at all. It was just a motor that was loosely posed. So they had to fix that motor. All right. And then the people felt better. All right. So then it shows that your body has the consciousness. All right. It still responded. All right. So you know that thoughts as well, parts of your brain sparks when you have certain thoughts. That's how they can see what you're probably thinking about when you're sleeping, and they measure dreams. They're sparking what part of your brain you're using. All right. And that would tell them a lot about what's going on. So that tells you that thoughts actually take shape. All right. So this energy interacts with your consciousness. So each race or species is in fact affected by their environment. Everything they're taught, believe, and accept. All right. So each race, everything that you're taught, everything that you believe, everything that you accept, all right, is all affected by your environment. All right. And you'll notice as well, each species may be exposed to a similar vibration, but they may be inspired to do different things about that vibration. All right. For example, everything they shawab drink, barur eats, yafuk breathe in, all is affecting your state of akal mind and mukwan being, your 24,000 genomes, and the 24% of them you use at all times. All right. So it's affecting all your 24 genomes, including the 24% that you are using at all times. And the 76% that you have been khatuba, lied to, and told are not used, called by them junk DNA, which is saduk, true for them, yet not true for you Nagaru Negroids. All right. So that's why you have to have somebody like you, all right, teaching you. Because for your design, that's not true. For their design, it is true. Seek out your own DNA salvation, which can only come by way of your own Salafu ancestors, those with your same positive blood types and DNA, your Kasat genes, whose bodies Hazuz vibrates at the exact same speed as your own pigmentation. All right. So you know that, for example, you have the rate, and the faster the vibration, the darker the skin. So, for example, your melanocyte, according to the textbooks I have, because I study skin, they say most people of all races, unless they have some type of other disorder, but even the lightest person and the darkest person, they say they have similar amounts of melanocytes. Melanocytes is the place where melanin is created. All right. But they find that Africans or Black people or darker skin in general has a quicker reproduction rate. Their melanocytes just are so rapid, where theirs is very slow. All right. And some of them are malfunctioning on them. Some of them are not producing at all. They may have melanocytes, unless they're albino. Albinism is defined as missing melanocytes. All right. But if you have melanocytes, because it tells you how complex melanin is. Because first off, you have to have all the right components there. And then not only do you have to have the right components, they have to be acting or functioning properly. Because you can have, for example, you can have 3 cones in your eyes, or something is wrong with one, so it won't function. So you'll still be colorblind, even though you have the 3 cones. So that can happen with the melanocytes. And certain things can be missing, all right, even though it's there, all right. So seek out your own DNA salvation, which can only come by way of your own Salafu ancestors. And the way that Caucasians teach, for example, when I was in school, they would teach, oh, when we were cavemen, or when we, whatever issue that they have, they make it very general. But then when they like to point out other issues, oh, it shows that Black people are susceptible to high blood pressure. Black people have sickle cell anemia. Black people this, Black people that. But when it comes to their own condition and their own disease, they don't teach it like, oh, well, white people, we have this. What they say is humanity have this. Because what they do is that they impose their limitations on all others. So they purposely do that, all right? Because any scientist would see that we're different, because if they could see the difference in what's wrong with you, then why can't they see what's wrong with them? All right. So we weren't all cavemen. All right. While some beings were in caves, there were beings. All right. Like when they talked about how the Europeans, they didn't shower until they went and they intermingled with other people who taught them to shower. All right. In their recent history. And then even in, they did what is it called? A survey in England. And look up this survey, and they asked people how often they shower. And the average person said 2 to 3 times a week. All right. They say it's not necessary to shower every day. But the funny thing is, they say Europeans are more sexually active. So I asked them how often do they have sex, or how many partners do they have. So it's really bad, very different standards, and they still kind of linger, even though they've improved quite a bit based on where they started from. All right. And I'm noticing that, yes, there's a lot of people that's more homeless than before recently. But I'm noticing that people are going back to their natural nature, because I'll see a Caucasian person, they'll be dressed pretty nice. Looks like they're not homeless, but to me, they'll smell homeless. And I'm like, it smells like they just got up and haven't showered for a few days. All right. So when they talk about what's true for them, they make it as true for us all. Oh, we need sunscreen. Now everybody, all different races are putting on sunscreen. All right. It makes no sense. But they don't take your medicine for sickle cell, for example. All right. So the world's scientists, geneticists, genealogists, hematologists, and dermatologists all now agree that we are not the same, only differ by skin color. That is now proven wrong. All right. And if you care about somebody, you want to give them what's right for them. All right. So scientists, geneticists, genealogists, hematologists, that's dealing with the blood, dermatologists dealing with the skin, will all have to agree that we're not all the same. It's not just like, oh, it's just about skin. No, that skin looks like that because of a reason. All right. The Laben Salal white race originally had Rh negative blood types, and the Kamem Salal black race originally had positive blood types. We are not the same. Now it's known that the Laben Salil white race is of Cro-Magnon European, who was Rh negative blood types and unique DNA. They know that the white race has Satu, 6 different types of chromosomes, not the same and not related to Mukmamu blacks. The Kamem Salal black race has Tasu, 9 different types of chromosomes, not the same and not related to whites. Over the past 6,000 years, there has been much mixing, crossbreeding. The result is now known by hybrids of both races having Rh negative blood types and Rh positive blood types, and exchanging many maradats, diseases, from the Yarapu Europeans to all others, starting with leprosy or leper, Greek lepros or scaly and rosy, Middle English bright in their own Bible and Quran speaks of their curse in Genesis chapter 9 verses 25. Of whom was cursed? Canaan. Then Leviticus chapter 13 verses 1 through 59. All right. So it's no secret. Many of us in our tribe, all right, with melanated skin have Rh negative blood types now. Why? Because we all been mixing and doing different things. All right. That's going to change the mentality of the people. All right. Then you have some Caucasians, all right, with Rh positive blood types. So by definition, both beings will be considered hybrid. All right. All this started, or Hasmudi, on verse 37. What to look for when a people have a curse or plague of Barasi, leprosy, and why their Gadad God put leprosy on a person or Sakasu people out of anger in Exodus chapter 4 verses 6 and also Numbers chapter 12 verses 9 through 10. All this starting from 400 BC of their Bible times, or 6,000 years back from 2000 AD. So the fact is, Mukmamu blacks and Labanu whites are not the same. All right. You know, it's funny because they were trying to show how racism is silly, which hating others because of their difference, that is silly. But acknowledging the differences is not silly. All right. It's like, for example, if you see me and you call me a woman, I'm not going to be offended. Like, oh, men and women, we're all the same. No, there's certain unique things about being a woman. And I like to be seen for all my dimensions. Being a woman is one of the many. All right. Because if I was a man, I'd probably be a little bit different. Everything would be the same, my birthday, everything like that, except, you know, I have testosterone, I have, you know, male organs. All right. It's going to change the distribution. All right. And we know that your hormones itself, it extends to your temperance and many different things like that. So when you change something slightly, you have a whole different being. All right. So acknowledging that, like saying men and women are different, for example, doesn't mean that you have to dislike men for being different or dislike women for being different. So same thing for the other races. It's different. Certain things are good for you. Certain things it might be wise for you to avoid for if you understand your design. All right. And you don't have to hate something by acknowledging it's maybe not good for you, for your design. All right. That's just a wise thing. All right. So, in fact, Mukmamu blacks and Mulbanu whites are not the same. And they tried to, I was saying how they had a skeleton and they were showing how, okay, that's a black person, a white person. They just use the same skeleton. That's a black person, white person, rich person, poor person, whatever they were trying to do. And they were saying, can you tell the difference? But the reality, if you were a scientist, yes, you could tell the difference because the bone structure is not quite the same. For example, if a man and woman died, you know, for example, that their bones would look different. Their hip bone is how you could tell a female, all right, from a male. And also something about the way their sternum is a little different too. All right, so there's differences. All right, so even the very structures, and when you start to break down the way it's composed, it will be composed differently, and then you'll also be able to tell if it's a hybrid. All right, and that's how they're able to go into the tombs and know who's who. All right, how long ago? All right, they're measuring something. So 40. The white race of Adamu, Adamites, is only 6,000 years old. And with them came sickness, disease by them raping other Salalu races of people, not the same as them, by the rules of natural nature. You as the Sahem Salal, Sayem Salal, the divine race, the Faek Salal, supreme race, Pawahin Salal, the first race, are now unaligned, untuned, and out of sync. All right. So originally we were aligned. Originally we were in tune. Originally we were in sync. All right. A lot of us now as a race, a lot has happened. All right. You must be realigned and retune the closed sarat etheric cord, like a straw has collapsed and must be reopened for the flow of your divine Sakem Wu Kawoy power and strength. All right, so I remember Bob was talking about the blocks in the DNA. Many of us, the connections are still there. All right, I'm drawing connections on my book. And then you'll see that there's blockages. All right. If you have the DNA, the connections and the blocks are still there, we can work to remove them. All right. So that's the difference. Now for them, their highway, let's say their genetic highway, because of the graftation, there's actually SNPs. There's actually SNPs in the DNA. All right. So being cut off and being blocked is two different things. All right. So what happened to us, other beings has gotten into our highway and caused traffic. That's a good way you can put it. And there's a lot of distortion. All right. So now you're not plugging, your etheric cord is blocked. It's congested. So it's like having and that happened to our entire body. That's why people don't have regular bowel movements and things like that, because your circadian rhythm is off. All right. So like a straw, it has collapsed. It must be reopened for the flow of your divine Sakem Wu Kaiwoi, power and strength. Your Salafu ancestors wait on you to reopen the straw, like redialing a correct phone number, and they pick up from the other side, and then your prayers are heard. Now is your salvation. Time to remind yourself. All right. It's alignment time. I, Baabaa Yaanun, have come with the right masak music notes, the right key, and the right tone, or the right song. When the Mujwawu Jews chant in Habarui or Hebrew, their own books, that is their own songs. When the Muksasu Christians sing hymns in Greek, Latin, or English from their own books, that is their own songs. When the Muslim chants in Arabic from their own book, that is their own song. Their ganayats, songs, ranamats, chants in their own lahajats, languages, is their own hadabat, culture, rhythms, their own physical sawatat, voices, vibrating from their own vocal cords, the membranous folds of the larynx that hazuz vibrate to pronounce or to produce voice sound. And up until very recent, you could clearly tell a white man's sawat's voice from a black man's voice. All right. I would say 30 years back, because they're going real hard, I'd say after the year 2000. All right. Black man, white woman, black woman. It's hard to tell us apart. All right. And this is very dangerous for us spiritually. All right. And the way that we sing, everything, our rhythm, our dance, we don't know how to dance anymore. We don't know how to sing anymore. All right. And then a lot of us sing with that high-pitched voice. You know, I kind of miss like the more masculine voices. All right, because to me now everybody sounds like a teenage boy. All right. So 51. Only after the past 400 years, from the 1600s, as many 1600s, with so much race mixing, do Kamem Zazaz, black men, some now get mixed up with white men's voices. All right. So now you can mistake somebody for a different race. Just very recently. Yet neutral nature, Hasmuni, 52. Yet natural nature made the separation of the human Sanafu species, and humans violated that rule. So our race must separate and become retuned to our original physical stature and voice, that we may sing our own song in our own Lahaj language, Nuapic. All right. The breathing, the breath book has really helped me a great deal. All right. I'm still healing. But if you want to just go back to like maybe like before, I might sound a little bit more nasally. I didn't really understand. I'm like, I couldn't put my finger on it. But now I could tell where the vibrations should come from, because the body actually vibrates differently. All right. But there's a lot of bad habits of breathing, talking, carrying yourself. All right. Because I've been in other people's image for a long time. All right. So I'm using me as an example, but a lot of us have, because a lot of us sound a little bit annoying, you know, if I'm honest. Like one, I'm not going to say the person, but she's working on herself. But she sounds like this, and she's not chiving. It's like, it's very annoying. So it's like, you know, we had to heal that. And we could sing our own song. And even speaking a language, I feel like certain pronunciations, you won't be able to really pronounce it properly or enunciate it properly if you're breathing incorrectly. So just by learning the language, a lot of times it's going to naturally correct a lot of the breathing tendencies. Until then, all right, so our race must separate and become retuned to our original physical stature and voice, that we may sing our own song in our own Lahaj language, Nuapic. Until then, we will remain unaligned with self, kin, and kind, and even act like other than self and kin kind. We became a kind of man, becoming a beast and heaving like the Adamu Natatu, the Adamite seed. All right. A lot of us really do behave like Adamites. All right. We get this information, and instead of trying to help other people, we want to go and colonize. That's what I notice. We have a tendency to want to colonize others, control others. All right. You got to be less than, I got to be above you, and I have to be condescending to you rather than just sharing things with love, because there's still a separation, a disconnect from ourselves. And we still see ourselves through Adamite eyes in many ways, even though we don't want to admit it. All right. So the hearts has to be healed, and we know that the breathing that regulates the heart, and our hearts don't beat in rhythm anymore. So the thoughts are not going to be in rhythm anymore. All right. And that's where the ashuk comes from, because a lot of times we're looking at what's wrong with everybody else, and it's very self-righteous. But there's a lot of healing that needs to take place in each one of us. And I take that as myself as well, because as long as I'm speaking English, there's going to be certain limitations and blocks, all right, that English mentality is going to take me. All right. I do my best to be conscious of it, to keep it in check. But it's like when you really want to get past it, you want to go back to your own vibrations, because now we know that the body itself is a capacitor. All right. Like that image that Baabaa had drew with the branches of the DNA. All right. So if you're vibrating wrong, it's going to come out in other ways, in some shape or form. So we become a kind of man, a beast, a heathen like Adamu, Natatu, the Adamite seeds. Many from among you echo statements. Kanoi sing Ranamat chants, the Ganayat songs of the counterfeiters, and Saduk trusts the deception of the deceiving race of Mudwawu devils. All right. See how fast somebody is like to want to break somebody else down. All right. And a lot of us from amongst ourselves, yeah, our sentiments, some people, when they chant, you don't feel the love there. All right. So I don't chant where I don't feel the love anymore, because it's going to make my ego get stimulated. That's what I'm trying to heal. So I'm not trying to go where somebody I can feel that it's not from that same nature that I want to be. All right. So as a result, you have ended up being his slaves, oppressed, confused, and without kayas reasoning. Now for them, on their behalf, you also have fabricators of legends and fictions of untruth, rejection of your own actual facts, your trustworthy confirmations, that which I, Baabaa Yaanun, as Isa al-Hadi al-Mahdi, spoke to you as far back as 1970 AD. And all I taught is being confirmed each Zamut day. All right. So, for example, tone, sound, DNA molecules, Baabaa wrote that maybe at least 2009. I mean, he probably wrote it before, but it was put out at that time. And it was a lot of things that was being broken down as far as like the different octaves, and what else? What was another book? The Freaks and the Perfect Creature. That's another good one. And it talks about how the body is actually crystals, all right, which are capacitors of energy. And then you'll see afterwards, they'll start naming it certain things. So that same concept that Baabaa breaks down very, very nicely in Freaks and the Perfect Creature, you can look it up, and it'll be the closest thing that you'll see recently is called string theory. All right. So string theory is all the dimensions from intergalactically to the very strings. And what was the word? It was rope. Rope is the root word of fiber, because you have fibrils. So your muscles and your cells, for example, they're made up of packs of fibers. All right. So bundles. And then those bundles break down. Then you're left with like strings. So you'll see those same strings permeating through all space and time. All right. So that's all confirmed. All right. So when Baabaa, some people they say, oh, Baabaa, he's a he plagiarizes. Baaba's just a plagiarizer. I heard that. He had to address that. But Baabaa doesn't teach fiction. So how can you plagiarize a fact? Right? You just share it. All right. So for example, the sun is 93 billion miles away from Earth, roughly. All right. So now I write that in my book and they're like, oh, Noon's a plagiarizer. The fact of the matter is that that's the most you can say, but you can't say he lied. All right. The scientists, the facts, everything is being confirmed every day. Some things you were able to confirm in real time, some things catched up later. All right. And then they'll put it like they just got it out of nowhere. All right. But the reality is that it's a confirmation of our spirituality. And that's why we were once in tune, where we would just automatically know these things. All right. So how can you doubt what you experienced with your own ayanat, eyes, and yet yatanat, ears? I, Baabaa Yaanun, incarnated and came before you, giving you what you asked of me until the year 2000 AD, when I was able to give you what I incarnated to really teach you, Wunawap. When you came to me, you had much to ask, yet always based on what you believed from the Bible and the Quran. You asked me if I am Jesus Christ, and I told you no. You asked me if I was a prophet. I told you no. You asked me if I was an apostle. I told you no. Many of you said, I know who you are, and I know you won't admit to it. I simply said to that, okay. Many of you really wanted a holy man. I said many times, I am not a holy man. I'm like Buddha, Confucius, or the Dalai Lama. Many of you really wanted a saint. I told you over and over, I am a master teacher, not pious, altruist, except for my own race of people. Over and over, I said, don't expect me to be holy so that you can look for and find faults in me. Do that with your pastors, bishops, ministers, clergy, reverends who claim to live by the letter of the Bible. They call the word of their God on good and evil. Do that with your imams, your shaykhs, mullah, and mulawi who claim to live by the letter of the Quran and hadiths and sunnah on being good and righteous. Again, I was and am a master teacher. Stop looking for faults in how I live from day to day. Find faults in what I teach as a teacher that you will never be able to do. I am Al-Mahdi by Renan. Only and only the only true Al-Mahdi was and still is my great-grandfather of the Sudan. All right. So here are some pictures of Baaba's father, grandfather, great-grandfather. All right. That's Baaba's father. There goes the Mahdi right here. Right here. All right. So let's go back a little bit. So Baabaa said from 2000, that's when he started giving us the facts of what he came to teach. Before then, all right, because in 1967 to 1970, 1963 Hasmoni to 1970, he originally came with these same facts. And then he said that the people, most of us, we were just not interested. All right. But spirituality, it was incomprehensible outside of the Bible and the Quran. It was just not comprehensible to us. So he took the first half hour of those first 30 years, all right, to explain away those delusions. Because if you ever deal with somebody who deals with any type of mental instability, let's say schizophrenia, all right, depending on how deep their schizophrenia is, sometimes you have to be careful when handling somebody's, what do you call that? Psychology. You have to be very careful. So sometimes you can't just say, oh, it doesn't exist, because that can make the person flip sometimes. So sometimes you have to take time explaining it away. All right. So if they think there's a giraffe that you can't see, sometimes you have to explain everything around that giraffe. Let the giraffe sit there. I'm giving it as an example. You let the giraffe sit there, and you could explain everything the giraffe is not. And the person's own conclusion will come to the mind, all right, that this is a delusion that I'm having, all right? And then they will come to that conclusion. So Baabaa had to deal with the delusions of religion, and he sprinkled some facts around it. Now it's time, like we should have, our psyche should have gotten stronger by now, all right? So Baabaa explained that 2000 is when he started to really give what he incarnated to teach. Before then, he was just giving us what we asked of him, which was the Bible and Quran. And then their comprehension of how they related to him, they wanted to relate to him as someone from the Bible and Quran. Even when he would say, no, that's not who I am, they would say, I know who you really are. You're lying to me. And that's what people with schizophrenia would do when they're having a delusion. All right. And it's hard for them to really grasp. All right. And that's why this is neuroscience. All right. It's a brain surgery. All right. And we're correcting the way we've been thinking. Because even when he's saying no, all right, they said, I know who you are. You just don't want to say. All right. So now Bob is going to clarify it. All right. Because maybe we have enough reasonability now. So we'll see. So I am Ahmadi by Ranan, name only. The only true Ahmadi was and still is my great grandfather of the Sudan. All right. Because that became a family name. All right. That some of his children even have. All right. He inherited that by name. All right. That wasn't his job. That was his grandfather's job. All right. And I still acknowledge him as the only true Ahmadi to the Muslim world. Yet again, with all the Haqqaqat's facts that confirmed who he was, yet because of racism in the Red Arabs' Islam, they refused to accept him, and none beside him came after their Prophet Muhammad. Year 576 to 632 AD, who fit every description in the hadith of what he would look like and where he would appear and do. We as Nuwapu Nuwapians to this day celebrate his day on the 4th of July each year. Pa Madoy Zamut, called the Mahdi's Day. I will always love and respect my bloodline and Sudanese family and read his book Al-Ratib. In our Islam hadith, it says to expect a reformer, a renewer, 100 years after the Mahdi has come. My great-grandfather was born in 1845 AD. And exactly 100 years after him, I was born in 1945 AD on the exact same date, June 26. So, as the reformer or renewer, I was to come with something to reform what they had to bring about, a renewal. And that is exactly what I did in 1970 with the Nubian Islamic Hebrews Ansarullah community, and a never before seen symbol, right? So that was the symbol. He came to reform what was already there, from the Hebrew school to the Islam school, all of the schools. All right. The 6-pointed star and crescent, which shocked the whole Muslim Tapal world. And what I taught, they did not like. Yet they could not prove one Madat's word wrong. And then I began to ask them questions, and they could not answer any of them. So I moved on to renew and reform as I was sent to do. All right. So they may not have liked him, but they couldn't prove him wrong. All right. Did you know they tried to assassinate Baabaa a few times too? And then when he would ask them questions, they couldn't answer his questions, but he can answer theirs. And one thing that is very true, when people cannot control you, they often resort to try to control the way people see you. All right. When it comes to Baaba's information itself, it's untouchable. So what do? They attack the character. And I feel the same thing, on a smaller scale. I'm not saying that I'm Baaba or anything, but I feel like the same thing has happened to me, because I literally just started this platform to read scrolls. All right. My personal life, how I live, I don't bring that here. I don't tell people what to do, how to dress, how to live. I read the scrolls. All right. Because of all the games that have been played throughout the years using information. All right. And I thought that it was our fault for not stepping up more and sharing the scrolls, because people read this and then they go off and they harm themselves and other people. All right. Next thing, I had to contend with how I dress. All right. And all this other stuff. That's really no one's business. That's really my business. All right. But here we are today. All right. And who gave you permission to do this? But I don't look like I'm somebody who you can just tell what to do. So that they resorted to say, oh, she never physically met Baabaa, so that makes her Paul. But I never pretend I did, because I talk about my journey in this path and coming across Baabaa and writing him for the first time. Sometimes I talked about it, and I presented myself as a fellow sister, working on myself too, alongside everybody else. So if you're looking to find something wrong with me, sure, you'll find it. All right. Because if there's nothing wrong, I wouldn't study. I would be somewhere else. All right. Honestly. But obviously there's things I'm working on. All right. So focus on what you're working on, and feel free to help me if you see something I need help with. All right. I'm using it as an example. But I don't really have hang-ups like that. I mean, I'm not saying I don't have any hang-ups, but hang-ups of like somebody trying to embarrass me, if she's not so perfect. That's okay. All right. But I stand on just sharing the facts of the truth, that these scrolls are very helpful, whether I'm perfect or not. All right. Or whether you want to hear it in my tone or not, that's okay. You have access. Now you know what these scrolls are. So you can always read it somewhere else by yourself, or we could read it together. All right. So that's the way I relate to Baaba's story. How we put people on pedestals that they didn't actually place themselves on, only to knock them off. And that's because of that. I would call that's that religious spookism, and it shows that we are really very sick right now. All right. So let's continue. So 81. So as the reformer or renewer, I was to come with something to reform what they had to bring about, a renewal. And this is exactly what I did in 1970 AD with the with the Nubian Islamic Hebrews Ansar Allah community, and never before seen symbol which shocked the whole Muslim Tapa world, and why I taught they did not like, yet they could not prove one Madat's word wrong. And then I began to ask them questions, and they could not answer any of them. So I moved to renew and reform as I was sent to do. 82. So many of you, yet many of you still hold on to the old schools of Ansar Allah community and the explained Bible and Quranic teachings. Some took hold of the Book of Lamb. So you know, as the holy tablets, which the most honorable messenger Elijah Muhammad told his followers he had seen in a vision and to look for it. Yet many Raghub reject it, and many Ansars won't let go or wait for me to update it as I told them I would if needed. All right. Right in the very cover, it starts off by saying, I give you what you want until you learn to want what I have to give. Let me see if I'm saying it right. All right. I came giving you what you want so you will learn to want what I have to give. All right. And the holy tablets. All right. And it's in a format that we like. Looks like a Bible, looks like a Quran. All right. And you know what it reminds me of? It's a beautiful book. It really is. But it reminds me of like a child. They don't know the value of $1 because they're like, oh, they don't want this. They want the shiny quarter. They don't want the $100 bill. All right. That's what it reminds me of. I mean, I obviously have one and I've read it and it was very hopeful. Well, the cumbersome parts, all right, has been explained away and taken. Like it's been replaced with pure facts. And it's too difficult to let go for many of us. All right. Because they still want to see Baba how they see him. And they still want what they want in some type of a reformed version of the religion that they still want. All right. Yet many of you still hold on to the old schools of Ansar Allah community and the explained Bible and Quranic teachings. Some took hold of the Book of Lamb, you know, as the holy tablets, which the most honorable messenger Elijah Muhammad told his followers he has seen in a vision and to look for it. Yet many Raghub reject it, and many Ansars won't let go or wait for me to update it as I told them I would if needed. Yet I needed to be away from Shakasu people so that I can sit down, pen in hand and paper, to perfect the doctrine. So this was well spent time in prison, perfecting our Hadaf culture, Wunuwap or Wunuwap, and our language, Nuwapui and Nuwapik, or Nuwapui, and set the record straight with actual facts, the master secrets, and so much more. Right. So it's very interesting. Another book, Baba said they thought they had conspired against the master teacher, but in actuality, it was nature that had conspired for the work to be done. Because when Baba was around, he was always catering to the minds of others. All right. Now he could just cater to the facts now that he's alone with his pen and paper, because it was hard for Baba to ever be alone. There's always somebody asking this or pulling him that way, this way. All right. '86. All right. set the record straight with actual facts, master secrets, and so much more. 86. So all things have their reasons and purposes, as in the case with my being imprisoned to perfect Paa Taraq the way, as Pa Mujdad, one who reforms, the reformer, the renewer. I am doing just that, making all things new. The seventh seal, the opener of that which had been shut up and sealed by Daniel, whose name means my judgment, or religion is of El. In Hebrew is Elah. In Arabic, Daniel chapter 12, verses 2 through 4. So the true doctrine was shut up and sealed until these end times, as you read in Revelations chapter 6, verses 3 through 12. Then he would come forth with the seal of the living El. Revelations. This is the seal of the living deity. All right. And when I look at this symbol, all right, I see a moon cycle, sun cycle coming forth. All right. Etheric and physical resurrection. That's what I see. All right. I was born before 2000. I was born in the moon cycle. All right. Now we have the remnants of the moon cycle as we reform ourselves. All right. And sometimes the lunar could also be with delusional thinking, you know. So we've explained these ways, we've graduated, all right, to stand over, all right. And there's so many ways if you want to look at it. So then the seventh seal of Revelations, chapter 8, verses 1. And when he had opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven about the space of half an hour. Once you see all these seven signs, know that you are living in the end of the Adamites' rule, the explanation of the Adamites' religion, and the renewal of all things. All right, so you see world over, they're losing their power, influence. You'll see us slowly going back to our sanity, to ourselves, and all others returning back to themselves. All right, the explanations of the Adamites' religion, all right, and the renewal of all things. And it was written in Revelations chapter 2, verses 17. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. And in the stone a new name written, which no man knoweth, saving he that receiveth a new name, Wunwa. All right, so it's talking about the new name. Bible showing that it was really us. All right, let him hear what the Spirit saith into the church. And in the stone a new name written, but no man knoweth, saveth he that receiveth. All right, that's why Baabaa is like Nuwapu. He is protected. Because no one knows what it is besides him. All right. And he will have a new name, Revelations, and I will write upon him my new name, Paa Nathar, the overseers, Nuwapian. Yaanun, 94. And a new Ganoi, a new Ganai song will be Ganoi, sung in a new Lasan tongue. Revelations chapter 5, verses 9. And they sung a new song, saying, Thou art worthy to take the book and open the seals thereof. And thou wast slain and hast redeemed us to God by their blood out of every kindred and tongue and people and nation, Nubic, Nuwapic, or New Arabic. And he had a new book, Revelations chapter 10, verses 1 through 11, the holy tablets. And after that, he had make all things new in Revelations chapter 21, verses 5, the renewal. All this had to come to pass, yet the end is not yet. Jesus the Messiah in John chapter 1, verses 41 reads, he first findeth his own brother Simon and said unto him, we have found the Messiah, which is being interpreted the Christ. Muhammad is the comforter in John chapter 15, verses 26. But when the comforter is come, when I will send unto you from the Father, even the Spirit of truth, which proceedeth from the Father, he shall testify of me. The Coptic Christian, Jabbar, who taught Muhammad is the Spirit of truth in John chapter 15, verses 26 in Hadith. Muhammad Ahmad of Sudan is that Al-Mahdi Hadith. Noble Drew Ali is that prophet in John chapter 1, verses 21. Messenger Honorable Elijah Muhammad is that Elijah in John chapter 1, verses 21, and Malachi chapter 4, verses 5. Isa Ahadi Al-Mahdi is that reformer Hadith that will appear 100 years exactly after Al-Mahdi had come of that same bloodline. 7 in all as the 7 seals. And now that which was kept from you, shut up, sealed, has been broken out with the right knowledge, the right wisdom, the right understanding, which gave you right understanding. All right, I think it's supposed to say the right understanding. That's money. Let me read that again. All right. So 7 in all, as the 7 seals, and now that which was kept from you, shut up, sealed, has been broken, open, with the right knowledge, right wisdom, the right understanding, which gave you the right understanding that led you to sound right reasoning. I, Baabaa Yaanun, come to make all things new, to break the hypnotic Hajjaj Shalil Nawam spell of sleep, of religious ignorance and blind faith, replaced with Haqqaqal Haqqaqat, actual facts, confirmation of all things. And know this as Makael, he who is like El in Daniel chapter 12, verses 1. And Malachi, he who is my angel, Malachi chapter 4, verses 2. Yeshua, Isias, or Jesus, or Isa, had the book Apocalyptus, Revelations, Al-Injil. Ahmad Muhammad had the book Al-Quran, or the Quran. Jabbar or Gabar had the book the Gnostic Gospels. Muhammad Ibn Abdullah Al-Mahdi had the book Al-Ratib. Noble Drew Ali got the book, the Holy Quran Circle 7. Honorable Elijah Muhammad got the book, The Message to the Black Man in America. Sayyid Isa Al-Hadi Al-Mahdi got the book, The Holy Tablets, also known as the Book of Lamb, 115. Over the past 2,000 years, all based on the history of the Adamite races and their 6,000 years from the Ladud birth of their first man. They called Adam, ruddy man, born Tammuz, the 6th, 3,761 BC, according to the calendar of Nippur, the Sumerian, Akkadian, and Babylonian, which became the Hebrew calendar. The birth of the new white race by one Adam. In Job chapter 14, verses 1, man that is born of a woman is of a few days and full of trouble, And Genesis chapter 1, verses 26 through 27. And it reads, and God said, let us make man in our image and after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. Given only 6,000 years, and they are genetically expiring, and their Safahat's books, as their history, also was expiring in the year 2000 AD. All right. So did you know that there's a lot of going into the chemists? I was looking at some program, but they were looking at talking about humanity going extinct, right? But they're talking about their own humanity. And that they were trying to find that all species eventually go extinct. And they're trying to find ways to prolong their existence here. All right. So they do have those laboratories. But you can see that natural nature is working to remove them from this planet. All right. And then also their religious books. And it's being dispelled by the facts that's just becoming common knowledge. All right. So everything about them, their illusions, their very existence, all that is expiring. And they will fade into extinction. And all their religious teachings are being exposed as only legends. The original white race of pure Nordics have already gone extinct. Only remains the blonde or safari yellow, thin fur with Zarek blue eyes, and the Hamer red thin fur with Qadir Ayantwi green eyes, and many subbreeds of what is called Yarapu Europeans as they fade away, as their telomeres was Katufa programmed. All right. So the original Nordics, they have actually white hair and the white eyes. All right. You don't see that so much anymore. You see variations of yellow and red here. You see variations of blue eyes, green eyes, and different variations. And then you'll see that it already started for the extinction, and it's just going to go down. All right. Through their different species. And their gods stated in their book in Genesis chapter 6, verses 3. And the Lord said, my spirit shall not always thrive with man, for that he is also flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. They will only live up until they can master the Yakasach genes, and death up to the age of 120. And the prophet of that book of Genesis, named Moshe or Moses or Moses or Musa, has marked that book in Genesis chapter 6, verses 3, marker by his own death. In Deuteronomy chapter 34, verses 7, it reads, and Moses was 120 years old when he died. His eye was not dim, nor was his natural force abated. Age 120. And now, after 400 years, the white race is now uncovering the secrets of extended life, as in Genesis chapter 3, verses 4 through 5, and also Genesis chapter 3, verses 22. And now they're extending their lives from 60 years upward until 120. All right. And that will complete the cycle of their telomeres and cell regrowth. All right. Because you know that there's a lot of things that you can do to manipulate the length of your telomere. The telomere determines how long one lives. All right. African people naturally have longer telomeres than others. Our habits and different things like that can shorten our telomeres. All right. And Caucasians originally had the shortest telomeres, but they're finding ways to genetically manipulate, all right, to go from their 60 to 120, which would be their maximum, all right. And that will complete the cycles of their telomeres and cell regrowth. Yet the pure original white race who has Rh negative Daman blood types have mostly faded away as the Cro-Magnon. Their Salafu ancestors who were crossbred with Nordics, who came to Kawataha, planet Earth, from Kamahat's Pleiades in Job chapter 9, verses 9, and also Job chapter 38, verses 31 through 32, and Amos chapter 5, verses 8, which reads, Seek him that maketh the seven stars and Orion, and turneth the shadow of death into the morning, and maketh the day dark with night, and calleth the waters of the sea, and poureth them out upon the face of the earth. The Lord is his name. All right. The seven stars is Pleiades, sometimes called the seven sisters. Yes, Zamal Patah.
Uh, if you go back a couple verses, talked about the telomeres of the Adamite, extended their life to 120 is their age of perfection. So I never seen or read anywhere where Baba actually said what was our extended life, the duration. Do you know?
I haven't. However, for some reason, from the Master Secrets called the 24 Elders, I would say that our perfection is immortality, because we have the ability to extend our consciousness into the ethers. And remember, we have we're the only ones with the ability to activate all 24,000 of our chromosomes, 24,000 genomes, I meant to say, of our genomes. So I would say it's immortality, because we have the ability to cycle and cycle time and time again, and in different forms. So that's what I'm going to say.
Tower, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Tower Tech.
Yeah, that's a very good question. Physically, I don't know, because I feel like we have so many impressions. Will we be able to really comprehend what we can physically do? Because I'm thinking about how we were able to vibrate the DNA and move structures through sound itself. So were we able to materialize and dematerialize at will? I'm gonna have to say yes, at one time. So is that our full potential? I'm gonna say yes. Okay. So let's see. So this from Pleiades. All right. So we're on 126. And much later, the Anunnaki used their own DNA, which had been mixed with the Sands people who moved from South Africa, and they birthed the first ruddy man in Genesis chapter 1, verses 26 through 27. In Job chapter 14, verses 1. Man, Adam, that is born of a woman is of a few days and full of trouble. The attributes changed as he moved. Zakar, from Zakar 1, Genesis chapter 1, verses 27. Hebrew Strong's number 2145. You have Cadman of Genesis chapter 2, verses 8. Hebrew Strong's number 6924. Adamu, Genesis chapter 2, verses 19. Number 120. And Adapu, that's the Sumerian stone tablets. All right. So you'll see that being or that creation, depending on what's going on, the attributes change as they move. And then also for anybody who might be confused, because you see that the Anunnaki is taking the Sands people, all right, it's to explain that the Adamites are composed of dog, pig, monkey, Palladian, Draconian, and Sands, in that order. All right. So the reality is that they still needed the Sands people DNA, all right, to create this being. All right. But they're mostly animal. They're mostly dog, pig, and monkey. Then Palladian, then Draconian, then Sands. All right. 127. Adam's father was named Cuth. All right, let's go back. He was born a female. He was born a female as all human males, having a father, Asmuni. He was born a female as all human males with a father having 46 chromosomes. All right, so I'm thinking it's going to say he was born of a female. I think that's what it's supposed to say. So he was born of a female, all right, like all human males with a father having 46 chromosomes. All right. Kawa, Eve, Titi's father was named Ptah, and her mother was named Anath. Adam's father was named Cuth, Atum, and his mother was named Lilith. Adam had XY chromosomes, 46, and Eve had XX chromosomes, 46. Right? There's a typo here. It says even had XX chromosome. But you could even say Eve had even chromosomes. Because, you know, XX is going to be more balanced than XY. So I like that happy mistake typo. Eve had even chromosomes, 46. This is confirmed by them having offspring. Abel in Genesis chapter 4, verses 2, had 46 chromosomes, XY. Seth in Genesis chapter 5, verses 3, had 46 chromosomes. And Enos in Genesis chapter 5, verses 6, had 46 chromosomes. And their Bible record of the Tanwa, generation of Adam and Eve, in Genesis chapter 5, verses 1 reads, "This is the book of the generations of Adam. In the day that God created man, in the likeness of God created he him. People were born not from dust, mud, clay, or loam." All right. So we're getting those delusions explained away. It was taken from, it was grafted from life already existence. All right. Whether it's a natural growth or a graftation, there's still a process to which things come about. All right. So it's not just taking a lump of clay and then breathing into it. All right. So that's another delusion that we should be past by now, of whether it's growing through mother and father or whether it's being grafted. I'm going to take a little piece of this and a little piece of that and put it together. There's still a process. All right. When you go into the process, you're going into animism. All right. All right. So let's continue. 132. And in Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 through 5, I confirmed that the Sawatatu daughters of Adamites, or females, XX, 46 chromosomes, had sex with the sons of God, males, XY, 46 chromosomes, and they had offspring, Karadu, children. This also confirms that their original makers, or Elohim, gods of Genesis chapter 1, verses 1, had come down to earth. In Genesis chapter 1, verses 2, also had to have 46 chromosomes, being called he, him. In Genesis chapter 1, verses 27, in him, so he, God, was male with XY chromosomes, 46 chromosomes. And being he had sons, 46 chromosomes, all right, who raped the Sawatat, daughters of Enocytes, in Genesis chapter 6, verses 4, who had XX chromosomes, 46. All right. So now you have to know how breeding goes about. All right. So if these beings could come down, 200 angels could come down and have sex with people on planet Earth and produce children, then you know that they have to be genetically compatible enough, all right, to be able to do that. Because if you know how genes work, then you know that certain species, you can put them together, they're close enough. All right. Certain species, even if you put them together and they mate, it's not going to produce a child. You have to do some type of genetic manipulation to make that cohesive hybrid. All right. So there's a few ways. All right. But if you use reasonability, it's going to give you a process of what's happening. All right. So now people can't play these lies anymore, because now we're more apt to know how genetics work, whether it's plants, whether it's animals, or whatever it is. All right. So the God of the Bible and Quran was a physical Zazaz, man with XY chromosomes 46, and had a Hamatat, wife, Asha, female with XX chromosomes 46, to give birth to Sawawu, sons of God. That is salvation knowledge, new knowledge, done before me, have explained this way. All right. Now it's common knowledge. All right. But you can see that Baba took time to explain that away. And at one time he was called crazy, all right, for what's now being accepted as science. This gives you a whole new way of looking at the Bible and the Quran and the Book of Mormons and the God of them, as well as the angels of them. This is right knowledge of Wunuwa, here to replace the fictions, the legends of faith and belief. These are the actual facts. As they recorded, you shall know the truth, not taqaq, faith, or akad, belief. All right. Because if you say you have faith in something, you're not sure. All right. Because that's where faith comes in. All right. That's where belief comes in. All right. Because if I say, well, if you ask me a question, I say, well, I believe it's on page 12, for example. I believe it's on page 12. That's indicated that I'm not sure. All right. So I say, I believe. All right. Or if you tell me something that's like, why you don't have faith in me. All right. You just have to take my word for it. But the great thing about what Baba has taught, there's been so many confirmations that doesn't require faith or belief. All right. One of Baba's famous lines is, don't believe me, check it out. All right. And in time, you'll see things that weren't confirmed at the time he was talking about. But later on, you'll see, for example, NASA found a planet with 3 suns. All right. But when Bob was talking about it, it wasn't confirmed by their telescopes yet. But he said in time they'll find it. All right. And they did. So now that's an actual confirmation. All right. That came many years later. All right. So the truth, the fact, and now it is that sawab truth that will be, that will kafus free you, both mentally and physically, from the rule of the devil. No, it was always it was always with you. All right. So no, it was always with you from 1970 AD. Nuwapic was Nawafa, Nawabu. Islamic, Ansar, al-Mahdi. Hebrew, Ishmaelite tribe of Kedar. All right. So he's letting you know that even though the delusions was there, that those breadcrumbs was always there. Those jewels were always there. It was always with you. All right. The original flag was right here. The black flag of our mighty flag with two pyramids and a spear and crescent. All right. So when I really look at it, you see the two pyramids. All right. Now I'm already starting to see the nose. I'm already starting to see the nose, which we know is the gateway. Our nose is our gateway between a physical and an etheric world. A lot of times things were given to us, right? But we didn't have the mind to ask the right questions. All right. But the facts have always been given to us. What else is there that you can see? You can see a flame. It's a spear, but you could see the moon cycle, which you know suns are fire. All right. So we go into a sun cycle. All right. I even see whatever that word is. I see a crown as well. All right. So you'll see that a lot of times there's multiple meanings. All right. Behind many symbols. So Muhammad Ahmad Ibn Abdullah al-Mahdi of Nubia in Sudan and Egypt was well aware of our Egyptian past and presented that fact on his flag by the two pyramids. All right. So that flag is going back to the Mahdis. All right. So he left that. It started from you lost in the West in 1600s, your enslavement. It was to last 400 years in Genesis chapter 15, verses 13 through 16, under the Canaanite tribe of Amorites in Genesis chapter 9, verses 25. Canaan was cursed with leprosy in Leviticus chapter 13, verses 1 through 59. White people, and this is their tribes. In Genesis chapter 10, verses 15 through 19. Genesis chapter 10, verses 15 through 19. Sodomites, yet of Adamites, as you see in the name. In Genesis chapter 10, verses 19, Admah, same roots as Adam, ruddy race of people. Just as Amorite means mountain dwellers, caveman, and not Amorites and America, the new Babylon of their Bible book Revelations. So from 1600 AD, 400 years equals the year 2000 AD. You see, it's not the Israelites of the old, as their Bible makes it clear, that their bondage down to the very day and time, as you see in Exodus chapter 12, verses 40 through 41. Now the sojourning of the children of Israel who dwelled in Egypt was 430 years. And it came to pass at the end of 430 years, even the same day, it came to pass that all the hosts of the Lord went from the land, went out. That's what he's supposed to say, went out. Went out from the land of Egypt. That's from the King James Version. All right. So you are given the exact Zam, you are given the exact Zamut day and amount of years that the Israelites was in Egypt under the Egyptians, not the Canaanites. Then they left the land of Canaan to go down to Egypt. Genesis chapter 46, verses 6 and 26. Only 66 people in all left the land of Canaan. where they lived with leper, or they lived with lepers. In Leviticus chapter 14, verses 33 through 34. So they were not enslaved by Amorites of Canaan. In Genesis chapter 15, verses 16. They were in Egypt 430 years to the last day, not 400 years. In Genesis chapter 14, verses 13. That is many of you in the West, of the seed of Abraham's son Ishmael's son Kedar, born by Abraham raping a black woman of Egypt named Hagar. In Genesis chapter 17, verses 1 through 15. And this Arab or mixed seed is what Arab means. The very first Arab mixed Persian of Chaldean and African, Egyptian, the first Nubian mixed seed. All right, I was just looking at something else when they were talking about the haplogroups of a lot of people in East Africa. And they were showing how a lot of them have the haplogroups of Chaldeans. All right. So, in Ethiopia, and especially they was looking at Ethiopia, and how that they're mixed. They're considered Arab. All right. Half African and half whoever those other people are. Very mixed. All right. And you could see in how they look. All right. And then for us here in the West, obviously, that's kind of our story too, all right? Because a lot can be said the same thing for our foremothers that happened to us here, all right? So his mother made Ishmael, the Arab, take a black wife of her own race. In Genesis chapter 21, verses 21, and he dwelt in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took him a wife out of the land of Egypt. And Ishmael and his black wife birthed 12 sons and 1 daughter. In Genesis chapter 25, verses 12 through 18. And Genesis chapter 25, verses 13 points out the tribe of Kedar, which means black, in Song of Solomon's chapter 1, verses 5. All right. So it also makes me think of like there's different kind of Arabs. I'm already thinking that now, because you have some that's going back home and you have some that's going the other way. All right. Some that want to go with the rapist father, and some that want to go back and heal the mom's genes. All right. And Havilah encircle in Sudan, as you read in Genesis chapter 2, verse 11, where you see the 2 Nile rivers. Pison is the blue Nile and Gihon is the white Nile. 162. And make notes. Verse 11 says, which compasseth in a circle, the meaning of Havilah in Hebrew and Arabic. All right. So Havilah means circle. Hebrew, you'll see translate as Hilwa, Hiliwa, that's around. In Arabic is Liwaha, that's around. So it's the lands of Sudan and Cush, Ethiopia. So you are those mentioned in the Bible in Genesis chapter 15, verses 13 through 16. Not all of you, for the slaves were mixed together from different parts of Africa, and even with those Native Americans who were always on this part of Taha earth, black natives with nappy wabar hair. All right. So you know the Arab slave trade is older than the Africans, than the European slave trade. All right. And many of us ended up here. And I can hear Baabaa saying no one wins the race in racism. All right. Because by those very standards, these are the very things that we'll be having to heal from. All right. So many of us are those mingled seeds today. All right. So Bob's saying that there's different things that went on, all side by side. Different things happened, all right, from the ones that was already mingled up, that got mixed up in the Arab story, all right. Their genes got mixed up, all right, with the Chaldeans, all right. Then they were intermingling with the other Africans who may not have been mixed up. Then they intermingle with the blacks that's already here, that didn't come by way of those voyagers who were already here, all right, before the continental drift. So that's why you can hear Baba saying he came to set the whole record straight, all right. So now another thing to think about is Hagar having what has happened to her. It was very important that her son identified with her people. So she was like, son, you're going to be amongst me and you're going to marry with my people. All right. So no, I don't want you to go and mingle and marry amongst your father's people. All right. So the 400-year bondage was not Shakasu Israelite of old. They were Egyptian 430 years exactly. They were not under Amorites of the Sakar land of Canaan, from which they left. The seal was opened in the year 1970 AD, giving you 1/2 hour of 30 years to wake up from the hypnotic Hajjaj Shalal, Nawam, the spell of sleep. 1970 plus 30 equals 2000. That is the year of your salvation. All right. So 1963 to 1970, we didn't want that. We were in a deep hypnotic sleep. So he had 30 years, or we had 30 years, all right, to break that hypnotic spell, which we should have done. By 2000, it's over. All right. Now we're in the year of salvation. All right. When I hear salvation, I'm already going to this book is called The Bridge Towards Salvation. And one of the important things of that bridge towards salvation is getting over that animosity. All right. A lot of us have chips on our shoulder. It's really a genetic war of what has happened to us. All right. And we have to heal past that. All right. And it's the time for the salvation to heal past that, to start applying. Okay, great. This all happened to you. And now you're aware. All right. But now it's time to see what we could salvage. Not all of us will be able to be salvaged, but some of us will. All right. Some of us, from all the different things that has happened, all right, will be salvaged. Because Baba said that that beings from each group or experience, there's people that's going to be salvaged from each. So from each experience, those who have went through that, we have to heal past that. Some of us too far gone, some of us will. And all these who can make that connection and come back home. All right. So we had 2000 to the year 2000 to break the spell of sleep. So that is the year of your salvation. Salvation is the act of preservation, deliverance, liberation, and emancipation from the Latin word salvere, meaning slave. All right. So it goes back to slave. A lot of us are slaves to the very crimes that has happened to us and the genetics. All right. And it's about liberation, emancipation. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. All right. Physical slavery. Heal the genes, the wars in the genes. All right. So I am that savior you have looked for so long, raised up amongst you, was with you, yet you knew me not. Yet now all Ayanat eyes will know me, as you see now. Sawab Kawun Sawab, truth is truth. without beginning and without ending. All right. And that's our scroll. All right, Moisad. So the floor is open. Anything that is stimulating you to think about, feel free. Okay.
I have a question, and I hope I phrase it right. It's going into what you were reading, and something I saw online was talking about anemia and sickle cell and stuff. So that has to do with being blocked. And if so, why would they give you that disease in just to be blocked?
Interesting, right? So I
Yeah.
was looking up, yeah, that's a good question. Now sickle cell, I was looking up the benefits of sickle cell and how it actually operates when we're in our natural nature. Um, and there's actually benefits to it. But it's like that gene can, depending on how you're living, it can
Uh-huh.
manifest in a different way, if that makes sense. And a lot of us are living outside of our natural nature, even in Africa. So the genes don't really operate in the same way
Oh.
that it would in your natural nature, even
So,
though
for
it's the
instance,
same
like
gene.
somebody with high blood pressure that's always angry and shouting, then it will result in them having the high blood pressure. You
Right.
would
I
just
mean,
have to like,
a lot of the high blood pressure though goes back to lifestyle change.
uh,
Well, I guess that is lifestyle too. But it's like that actual gene because I was looking up, there was a gene called Duffy something. I forgot, it has the word Duffy in it. Duffy, I think it's Duffy 20. And that
oh,
gene that they find in Africans, only Africans, and it's something that either it's not found in Africans or it is found in Africans, and it makes them not susceptible to malaria, like they just can't get it. But what ends up happening when they start mixing, they start losing that natural protection, and sometimes the genes can actually manifest differently. So I was looking up this study about sickle cell, for example.
yeah.
And in the study, they was showing that people who had the trait for sickle cell had the best protections against certain malaria if you had the trait. So they found that almost the entire population had the trait, but nobody had sickle cell because the bodies, it was selective to create, this is what we want to do. But it's like when they start moving from their environments, some of them don't have the trait anymore, and then some of them start to actually manifest it as a disease. And they
Oh,
didn't really
so
understand how, but they found that being in a certain environment made them pass the genes differently, if it makes sense.
yeah, I understand now. Thank you.
Mm. Yeah, I had to find that documentary again because they found that, sickle cell anemia is very common, even though you don't see sickle cell amongst the people often. But the way that we live, we can pass our genes expression differently.
For me, I find that anemia makes you sleep. So it's like, why would you want somebody to sleep all the time? But then when I think about it, I actually do like to go to sleep. So it's like, I guess it's a good thing and a bad thing.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's like, being out of balance. At this time, African people, we don't really live in our own image. So we can't expect our genetics to play out within its proper balance. Like
Yeah.
any species that's living outside of its natural rhythm is not going to have its full benefit. And certain things may even turn against it, until you get back into your rhythm.
Okay. Thank you also for reading. I'm going to actually go back to work now.
All right. Thanks for spending
Thanks.
time.
Bye bye.
All right. Well, I do have a great day. All right. Anybody else about the scroll or anything in general you like to share as well? Feel free. All right. Okay. So it's a lot to digest. Sometimes based on the comments or questions or the train of thought that we go in, sometimes it does lead us into another scroll that we end up reading. So don't be shy if there's anything that's on your mind. It may even help us to dive into another scroll for our next reading. And also, yes, Zamal, Atum Kofi, good to see you.
Thank you. The question of the other brother Kofi about how long the black race actually could live. The first thing I got in my mind was also about the mafkuset the teacher spoke about. I don't know exactly, but the mafkuset was something that he had to give us to connect again with outer space or something. And when you read, I think it's the Akasha records, I think there was something about when the beings came here, and because of the elixir of life, those people were living much longer, and we lost the capacity of that mafkuset. Oh no, it was the monatomic. Which scroll it was?
Mafkuset elixir life, monatomic particles.
Yeah. So brother said about our lifespan. That was also the mafkuset I thought about. And I wanted to ask it immediately, but you went on readings. So now I'm asking if that had something to do also with that you can live forever.
Right. Yes. Because the mafkuzet is also the complete formula. So if there's something missing in the genetics, it's not going to. Because remember, the genetics on the physical and the etheric, they're counterparts of each other. So those are very important transitionary metals. All right, because you have silver, you have gold, you have plutonium, you have platinum, you have uridium, you have and three others that I'm not remembering at this time. And that is very important, all right, to have for the complete sanity of that DNA, for it to do what it's meant to do, you know. And you find some of and that's just even some of it, because in other scrolls, Bible also talks about the importance of copper. All right. And you see, like, even now our food is depleted. We're partaking in things, it's breaking down the DNA. So certain vibrations can actually help to restore some of that. Certain intakes, clean ourselves out. And then some people may have mouth kuzet. All right. So not everybody lost them. A majority of many of us did, but some of us do. And a lot of us with that mouth kuzet, we end up losing it because we don't know. And we're so, especially young people, because their goal is to destroy the people before they find out who they are. So a lot of us in the Golden Children's Scroll talks about some children already having the mouth kuzet and them depleting it and doing different things of losing it. So that has to be put back and cleaning yourself up and all that other stuff. There's many things to do to help restore it. All right.
Okay.
And
Because yes. No, you can go on.
And how men can go back, how men may go about restoring it, how women, I think women have more options. But yeah, Mafkuza Elixir Life will probably be a very good scroll to go over again.
Yes, because I read the scroll, and for myself, I live in the Holland, in Netherlands, and you have a company over here who also colloidal products he sells, with iridium, gold, platinum, and enzyme minerals, vitamins. But yeah, he makes it himself and with carbon. So also all the colloidal stuff. And he says you only have to use that and no other synthetic other vitamins anymore because it will go into your DNA and on that method it will fill you up. And yeah, that is his power. The man is 75 years old, but he looks like 50, 60 when you see him.
Okay.
Um,
That's wonderful.
yeah, it's
I
a good projects.
okay. I tried. I purchased some as well. Although Baba said, and can't remember which other scroll, he said that what they're selling on the market is really the faker.
Mm,
Uh, it's not the real thing. However, um, I would say working on yourself regardless is a good thing because even though I read that, I still went and I bought some monatomic particles myself. And
mm,
I did feel a difference. But there will still be things lacking more than likely. But working on yourself and applying what you have at I feel like that can create gateways for you to actually get to where you're going. And
yes, yes.
knowing the balance and how everything is and what you need and the balance of what with what it's it's uh it's a lot. But I don't see it as impossible either.
Yes, you're right. You're right. And the last few sentences of the scroll about um, the freedom salvation. Uh, I live in the Netherlands, and my parents are from Suriname. And around me, you see a lot of people, let's say, are waking up and they're fighting their justice from the government and talking about slavery now. For myself, it's important, but what I feel is that you, it's personal, eh? You can, because of the knowledge, the readings, the scrolls, the teachings, what Baba gave, I went past that stage already because the way I see things is like the ancestors who are in me connected to those from past times. It's my responsibility, for so far as I can, to connect with my energies, my spirits, my ancestors, and try to make peace. Because the white man will not give you what you deserve. He won't give you that. And so you can knock on his door. He will always try to play you out or mislead you, misjudge you. And now you see that a lot of communities, black people, are coming up, talking with the king, King Alexander from the Holland, try to get something from him. And they only gave us 200 millions for 400 years of working. That's nothing. And when Ukraine has a war, they will give millions more than what they give us black people for the 400 years of slavery. So the information that I read in the scrolls and the way I see things for myself now is that if you want to have peace and come in contact in the cycle we're living in now, then you've got to make peace with yourself and with your ancestors and have to live this out already and find the peace within instead of going outward and finding it from the Caucasian man. That is
Right.
the feeling. They won't give you nothing. They won't give you nothing. And if they give you something, they will make sure that you will invest it again in their economy because we don't
Right.
have nothing to invest for ourselves. And it is just like we don't have the opening and we don't love each other enough to build and help each other, but we still look with white DNA what is in us in us to our outer world. So there's a lot of cleaning to do. And it is not impossible, but just like the teacher said, it's a long walk on a short path. It is difficult and it's hard work, but it can be done, but it's hard work. A lot of things on the way, on your path that will distract you and keep your mind connected to them. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you
Right.
for the
Everything that you
space.
stated, everything you stated is true. And to find out that, it was somebody who has said, I think that's another African who said this. I don't remember where, I just know the quote. And it said that um the foolish person um goes and chases a person gets bit by a snake, and instead of healing and taking the time to heal themselves, they go and try to pursue the snake uh because they feel they didn't deserve to be bitten, something like that. I'm not really saying it with true justice to the word, to how it's said, but you get the idea. And
I
it's
get the
like,
idea. I feel it.
yeah.
Yes.
And a lot of us have things to heal from, and if you can do that healing in time, and if we all take that time to heal, um because a lot of times, like, one of the books I feel is very hopeful, Are There Black Devils, right? And it talks about, devils amongst us. Of course there's black devils, but a lot of us take time to, like, that's a black devil over here, and this is going on that. And all that's a distraction of the devil inside yourself, that you need to be reforming, because after all that we have faced, it would be a lie to say that we were not affected in any type of way. There's things that I still need to get out of my system in time, having that love for self and kind. And that's because of all the different distortions. All right. And that self-love would take us to that journey of all, you know, and where we find ourselves. So a lot of us have a chip on our shoulder, and we're against each other, or approval, trying to still prove to white people that we're valuable, or whatever the case is. And that acceptance that'll never come, you know, that's just going to cause more chaos in that journey. Rather than, Baba said, part of our healing, you have to separate from them and give them back everything. And you're naturally replenished. All right. And that's one thing I noticed. That's the beautiful thing about fasting. Fasting is a good example of that. When you fast, you take a break from all the things, the toxins that you're taking in, and you'll realize that by creating the environment where healing can happen, it naturally happens, and your body naturally goes back to its baseline. But it's very hard for us because we're addicted to this bad relationship that we just don't want to let go of, and it keeps reinfecting us. So that's where the self-love is going to come in, and we'll see ourselves in each other. And it's happening. I think it is happening, you know. All right. Anybody else? If not, we could close out. So I like to just take, oh yes, Zaman Patel.
Uh, yeah, this is a beautiful day. This is a wonderful day, just to know, that we, uh, out out of all that we've been through as a people, that we can still, stand up. We can look at the cup as being half empty, or being half full. And we have many teachers that came to raise us up. And now that we have the master teacher, you know the culmination of all of those leaders, we should, actually be proud and, work towards, our true future. That's all I want to say.
Right. And being grateful for all the things that we do have in our favor, because it's there. We just need to use it, all right, and tap back in, and we'll be okay, all right. So, tawakum to us, Moisad, as we are all doing our very best to transform into the best version of ourselves, of our healed self, in our one collective body, because we're all healing from something, if we're being honest with ourselves. I saw somebody else unmute. Feel free to unmute if you like to, whoever that was. All right.
It's probably listening.
Yes, I see you, Zamal LJ.
Okay. I'm
Yes.
listening. I'm muted. I am muted by a mistake. I'm listening.
Okay. I
Thank you.
appreciate you. Okay.
Sweet.
And Tower Attack for being here. All right. So we're just closing out the platform. We're going to read something else together again. And, take the time to apply as you know better, you do better. And I remember Baabaa talking about one of the hindrances is shame. We have to get over those shame, you heal from self-love, not from shame. And the different things that has happened to us in our genetics. And that's where our sugar is coming from. All right. And that's where that's where it's time for that. Okay. So tawakum to us, and I will see you next time. I shook my side and Wadu.
Ashok Wadu Samatat. Thank you.
Okay.